Lisbon did not fall from decline. It was erased. Before the ash, before the fire, before the sea rose, this city believed itself untouchable. Gold arrived daily. Prayers filled stone halls. Power slept comfortably behind palace walls. Then, the earth moved. In moments, faith became panic. Order dissolved into flight. Streets cracked, bells fell silent, and bodies disappeared beneath smoke and water. What followed was not merely destruction. It was exposure. The illusion of divine protection shattered. The certainty of empire collapsed. From the ruins, something colder emerged. Calculation replaced prayer. Geometry replaced memory. Control replaced belief. This story traces that transformation. Not from hope, but from shock. To understand how Lisbon was broken and rebuilt, we begin by entering the city just before the ground opens beneath it. History watches without mercy, recording every choice, every silence, and every structure that fails when certainty finally demands a reckoning. Now, no warning followed, no mercy arrived. The city did not scream as one. It fractured. Each street collapsed alone. Each prayer failed in isolation. What remained was a question hanging over the ruins. If faith could not save stone, what could save a city? That question shaped everything that followed. Lisbon in the mid-18th century stood at the edge of the Atlantic as one of Europe's richest ports. From this wide panoramic engraving, the city unfolds along the Tagus like a dense mosaic of rooftops, towers, and quays. Merchant ships crowd the river. Warehouses line the shore. Behind them rise convents, palaces, and narrow residential blocks built without modern planning. This was a city fueled by Brazilian gold, Asian spices, and African trade routes. Every mast on the horizon represented global connections stretching across oceans. Yet the skyline also reveals fragility. Most buildings were constructed from timber and unreinforced masonry. Streets were narrow, winding, and packed with people. No modern sewage or fire control existed. Lisbon looked powerful, but it rested on unstable foundations. This image captures both imperial confidence and hidden vulnerability, which leads directly to the life of the city's central public spaces in the next scene. Now we move toward the Rossio. The Rossio was the heart of daily Lisbon life in the 18th century. Markets filled the square with voices, carts, and the smell of food. Vendors sold fish, bread, and imported goods brought from the docks. This engraving shows a space where all social classes met. Nobles crossed paths with laborers. Priests passed beggars. Public celebrations and executions occurred in the same open ground. Rossio was also the stage of the Portuguese Inquisition. Here, public punishments known as auto da fe were carried out before massive crowds. Religion, fear, and spectacle merged into one civic ritual. The square reveals how tightly authority and belief controlled the population. Yet, despite this pressure, Lisbon's streets remained busy and full of motion. This energy flowed outward toward the river and the monuments of empire, which is why the next stop takes us to Belém. Now, we move toward the Jerónimos Monastery. Jerónimos Monastery was Lisbon's spiritual gateway to the world. Built using wealth from the spice trade, it symbolized Portugal's maritime empire. Sailors prayed here before crossing oceans. Families gathered here to give thanks when ships returned safely. The carved stonework reflects the Manueline style, filled with ropes, coral, and nautical symbols. This engraving shows the monastery rising proudly beside the river. It was not only a church, it was a monument to global ambition. Every stone was paid for by trade from Asia, Africa, and Brazil. In the 1700s, Jerónimos stood as proof that Portugal believed God favored its voyages. Yet this faith existed beside poverty and risk. Ships left carrying hope and returned carrying loss. Belém was the last sight of home. That journey always passed one more powerful landmark, which is why we now turn to the tower guarding the harbor. Next comes the Belém Tower. Belém Tower stood as both a symbol and a warning. Every ship leaving Lisbon passed beneath its guns. Every ship returning saluted its walls. This engraving captures the tower standing proudly in the Tagus, guarding the entrance to the harbor. It represented royal authority over global trade. Yet inside, The tower also served as a prison. Political enemies and criminals were held in damp underground cells. Some were forgotten as tides rose around them. The tower therefore embodied Lisbon's dual nature. It was beautiful. It was cruel. The wealth of the empire passed through its shadow, but so did suffering. In the 1700s, sailors saw it as the last glimpse of Europe and the first sign of survival. Everything in Lisbon depended on the river beyond this point. That river led directly to the royal palace, where the empire was managed. So now we follow the Tagus toward Paço da Ribeira. Paço da Ribeira was the administrative brain of the Portuguese Empire. This palace stood directly on the riverfront, where ships unloaded gold, spices, and documents. From these halls, clerks tracked trade routes and royal revenues. Kings ruled an empire stretching from Brazil to India from this very spot. The engraving shows a complex of towers, arcades, and warehouses connected to the harbor. It was both palace and port. Inside were priceless maps and navigation charts that revealed the secret paths of the oceans. These documents were guarded like weapons. Yet, despite its importance, the palace was built on soft ground and weak foundations. It stood only meters from the river. Its location made it powerful, but dangerously exposed. This vulnerability would soon matter. Before disaster struck, however, Lisbon was about to be remade by human design. That transformation began with Pombal's new city plan, which is shown in the next image. Now, we turn to Baixa Pombalina. After the earthquake, Lisbon became a laboratory of modern urban design. This map shows the new Baixa district planned by the Marquis of Pombal. Gone were the twisting medieval streets. In their place appeared straight avenues and uniform building blocks. The layout allowed light, air, and movement. It also allowed soldiers to control unrest. The plan reveals Enlightenment thinking applied to a ruined city. Order replaced chaos. Geometry replaced tradition. Every building was designed to be earthquake-resistant using wooden internal frames. This was the first city built with seismic science in mind. The map captures a radical shift from faith to reason. Lisbon was no longer shaped by accident. It was shaped by engineering, yet this vision was born from unimaginable destruction. To understand why such a plan was necessary, we must return to the moment everything collapsed. That moment is revealed in the next scene. Now, we face the earthquake. This dramatic engraving shows Lisbon during the morning of November 1st, 1755. The ground split. Buildings shook. Churches collapsed as thousands prayed inside. The sky filled with dust and falling stone. In the harbor, ships tore loose from their anchors. People fled toward the river, believing open space meant safety. The city that once looked solid now moved like water. This image captures panic and disbelief. No warning had come. No science could explain it. Within minutes, centuries of construction were destroyed. Yet the disaster was not finished. The earthquake triggered a massive tsunami that raced up the Tagus. Those who reached the river soon faced an even greater terror. The wave erased docks, ships, and survivors alike. What remained was a city shattered beyond recognition. The true scale of loss becomes visible in the next image of ruins. Now, we enter the wreckage. The ruins of Lisbon reveal the earthquake's final outcome. This engraving shows collapsed churches, broken walls, and open streets filled with debris. What had once been crowded neighborhoods became fields of stone. Fires burned for days because the water system had been destroyed. Entire districts vanished. Nearly half the population was dead or displaced. This was not just a natural disaster, it was a social collapse. Archives, libraries, and artworks turned to ash. Trade stopped. Government offices disappeared. The city had to be rebuilt from nothing. Yet within this destruction came a new kind of opportunity. The old medieval structure was gone. A modern city could rise in its place. These ruins became the foundation of Lisbon's rebirth. To see what replaced them, we move forward to the new heart of the city. Now, we step into Praça do Comércio. Praça do Comércio stands where the Ribeira Palace once ruled. This engraving shows a wide, open square facing the Tagus. It represents Lisbon's rebirth as a rational, mercantile city. Gone are royal towers. In their place stand symmetrical buildings designed for trade and administration. The square was meant to welcome ships and merchants rather than kings. This space symbolized a shift in power. Commerce replaced court ceremony. The Enlightenment replaced blind tradition. The new Lisbon was built to function, not merely to impress. Every facade followed strict proportions. Every street led efficiently toward the river. The earthquake forced Portugal to rethink how cities should exist. Out of fire and water came order and resilience. Praça do Comércio still stands today as proof that destruction can become design. From here, Lisbon's modern story begins, closing this journey through catastrophe and rebirth.